Episode 59. Welcome back to the Ultimate Pill Experience, man. Anthony, don't break the mic.
Yeah, my bad.
Wow. I thought it was going to bend in half. Feels good to just get a couple personalities to collide and add data to some system that then gets sent out and shared with others to experience, man. So interesting, the world we live in.
I'm angrily happy.
Interesting. I actually already have something to say about that, but not yet.
I knew you would.
Two personalities colliding, man. That's Anthony and I.
What happens when an unmovable object meets an unstoppable force?
They become one. Didn't I say, you text me that about 8 months ago. Wasn't that my response?
That's a quote from the Joker again. I quote that movie too much, from Dark Knight.
No, I think he texted me that and I said they become one. And I remember putting thought into it too, like, huh. And then when the way to overcome it is to become one with it. Think about it, because if you can't move it, you may as well work with it.
Well, for sure.
You see what I'm saying? And I'm not talking like a spiritual like oneness. I'm literally talking about like, okay, you've got to adapt and be flexible.
Yeah.
And then become one with the wall and figure out how you and the wall can have a relationship together in order to perform successfully.
You way over, like, I was just quoting Dark Knight.
Sorry.
No, it's funny but like you're not wrong. But that's what's also great about that movie and why everybody loves that. The Joker was purposely I forget the smartsy pants word for this, but he's a mirror image of Batman. They're both the same, but to different extremes.
Okay.
They both Batman he's a vigilante justice.
So is it the intention behind it? If they're similar, like you're saying, is it the intention behind the behavior?
Yes, or the aim too, because Batman was more aimed towards actual true justice. Well, by his terms, this is where it gets controversial.
How are you finding things I'm so interested in?
And the Joker was all about chaos. The Joker's like, when the chips are down, I'll show you these people's morals. It's all a bad joke. They'll eat themselves. It's true. That's where I'm at, actually. I'm actually on some Joker energy lately. Maybe you can be the Batman. I think what's happening, bro, if I can be honest with you, is...
Well, what I've been doing is paying attention more to the Joker.
Oh, really?
And not escaping.
Yeah. I've been on some serious Joker mindset.
And I'll explain that later, but it's real ironic that could be like the symbol for what we're talking about is Batman and the Joker.
Yeah, the Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
Good
and evil.
When Nietzsche puts you right in that Joker mindset.
So you've been on some good and evil stuff?
I've been beyond good and evil.
Oh my gosh. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah. I've been beyond good and evil, man. Or actually, before good and evil. That's where Nietzsche takes you. He takes you back to before there was good and evil.
So we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
What I like is that's how the Ultimate Pill works. And even texting you yesterday, I was kind of coming up with a scripted type of show that would have things that we created prior. And then you gave a response. But then I thought, wait, that's not really how we work. We kind of get on there and, from the cuff.
And find it.
And that was it right there, y'all. Yeah. Like, genuinely, we exchanged some pleasantries and had a nice little conversation before we recorded today. But when we set up, we're kind of quiet. I think we're both getting in a good headspace.
Yeah.
We're paying attention to, like, some of the ideas that are there and make sure we can explain and express them in the hopes that it helps somebody. Like, we're not really like, oh, what should we talk about here? Oh, should we go this way? No. It's free association. So we're going to get to that, but let's highlight some of the, I think, exciting things that, we do together.
Yeah.
When we create this show it really is natural.
Yeah.
I hope it's authentic. And I hope people feel that. I hope that's what they feel.
Yeah. I'd say it's instinctual with where we've gone, because it wasn't always that way. And probably the past 20, 25 episodes, it's been real, maybe even more and more instinctual, like
just dialogue.
Yeah, let's just find it. We'll find the conversation. We don't have to kind of abstractly try to birth this conversation out of nowhere. It's just we find it as we go. So, and hopefully
Yeah.
pull some value out of that. But
Yeah, and something cool similar to that is recently was just listening to some stuff on the law of detachment, which I think is really cool, because basically what it says, and I thought about it more, and we did somewhat of a show on it, effort over results.
Yeah.
Similar concept, but basically what it says is you detach from the outcome, but then at the same time, it is okay to have passion for the desire that you're striving for. So you put forth all the effort and the energy and all that it takes to create something special, but you detach from the outcome. You have faith in knowing that as long as I have the right intentions and do what is good for right now, then ultimately the outcome will be exactly what it should be. I don't know. It's very freeing.
Yeah.
It's a very freeing idea. Like, I just got to pay attention, man, to like what I'm doing now. Like, yeah, yesterday's yesterday. What happened. But what matters is paying attention to what's in front of you.
Yeah.
So I don't know, law, it's kind of something similar to what you were talking about there.
Yeah, I think that tracks right along with what I've been, just the headspace I've been at, man. It's weird. My life goes through phases, but so I was in a very, you remember when I was listening to Viking music and stuff, like very similar phase back then, but I wasn't fully immersed or fully comprehending as I am now. Like I just dipped my toes in the waters of like the depths that I'm in now, because I'm in the deeps of it now.
Yeah.
And it's just like affecting everything I think and believe and how I want to be for the future. And but that touches right on it, and we can get more into that later.
No,
where have you been? Like, so where have you been intellectually, I guess, or spiritually?
Kind of similar to that, and almost along the ideas of good and evil. Really think that's cool how we're both kind of tapping into the same idea, but not just in a different way.
Yeah,
a different approach to it. I'm really trying to. Because I truly do understand now that everybody is capable of good and evil. We're all capable of it. And it's just something that I think is innate to the human experience.
Yeah.
Is that it's good and evil are two ends of the same spectrum or the same line. However you want to look at it. Like there's just there's certain places that you land to where, I don't know, man, you're either life supporting or you're not. So I've been really heavy into trying to figure out, though, being in my profession, like what is like the mental process, like what is the mechanism that is occurring like logically and reasonably and rationally that is causing someone to be so destructive or causing someone to be so supportive. Like, where is that? And man, I'm really big on this idea right now called affective realism. And basically, it states that it is the phenomenon that we tend to experience what we believe. So our brain, essentially based off its belief system, creates, architects that experience. It's like constructs the experience in a way that we believe. Affective realism. So the feeling, though, right? Affective, which is cool. So it shows that feeling has a lot to do with it. So I'm like, okay, like how does feeling happen?
Yeah.
Real interested in that. And affect, which is, again, how the state of feeling of the body, or sometimes people like to describe it as like the body's ability to feel in that moment, like where it stands, comes from body budget. I talked about it a little bit in 58, but a little bit more about it. Allostasis is what it's called. Like the body is constantly like shifting its energy levels based off what it thinks the demands are of reality. So again, okay, that's affect, right? How does that happen?
Yeah.
Where's that come from? So they say that comes from the brain's belief about the state of the body. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Okay, so I'm hearing belief a lot. So that's probably really valuable. Like how we believe and what we believe tends to influence how we experience our life. I find that really interesting. So dove into that a little bit more. And then this idea of concepts and like how the way that like we believe comes from past experience and the concept that we placed on that experience and where we categorized it in our brains, like the little processing system. And then from these categories come predictions for the present. And if that prediction comes from a concept of, oh, in that moment, something similar to this, I felt this, and therefore literally your body like puts you in that state. So that led me into understanding that there's prediction error. If it doesn't go right, then it needs to be fixed. But if it doesn't fix, then it just perpetuates, and then it becomes part of what they call the control system. And then all this is influenced by social reality. So for me, all that being said, I've started to pay attention more to the evil in the world, because I think I need to really be helpful. I need to understand that. So if all of this, that whole process, the 3 points, or the 3-step, I love my 3 steps, would be affective realism, concepts, and then social reality. And then the context of the social reality literally determines the meaning of that experience. And then that gets conceptualized, and you tend to seek out that experience moving forward. So I need to understand both sides of everything.
Yeah.
If someone's in pain, I need to really be able to empathize and say, man, that must hurt. Like, I can't run from the evil anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel it too myself. Mm-hmm. I felt evil overcome me today. It got me. And one more thing I'll say before, I would love to get your thoughts on just where you've been on good and evil and that whole thing, is I definitely was attacked by some real nasty stuff today. I was driving, man, just going to get my car washed, and everything running through my head, dude. And it really felt like, what the heck is going on right now? But knowing that there's good and evil allowed me to really stay firm in that moment, man, and say, no, aim. You said aim earlier. Intention is what I started thinking about. Keep your intention, man. This is temporary. Keep your intention. I came home and I wrote down so clearly what the heck was bothering me. And people, I'm telling you, I was able to organize it and understand it and realize that that's not who I am right now. That's just what I did in that moment in time, that past experience, which created some concept in me that was still lurking down there that made its way up into my work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, or if you're like, there's something hard that you're kind of running from and you know it hurts to think about, face it by sitting down. And what I wrote was, what are 3 things that are affecting you because of this problem? And I was honest as heck in my answers. So honest. Nice. And it was I feel like I'm using the word freeing a lot lately, but it was freeing. So there's salvation even in the dark times, man. And I think it just becomes by staying focused on trying your best.
Yeah. Or what I'm hearing from you, which is understanding the scale up and down. And what I mean by that is a common denominator. Everything you just said was, to me, screaming body, the natural body. You talked about affective realism. All right. You talked about feelings, what the brain is believing about the state of the body. Right. So I've been really big on, and I've used this term with you before, but not being a nogginist, someone who's stuck up in the head and too much up there. And I've definitely been there for most of my life. I can just look back on my life and my journey and being like, all the people I looked up to, all the books I was reading. I was a very like a book nerd, and I was so much stuck up in here in the sky, like head in the clouds. And if there's been anything that's changed, now what's funny is, what's ironic about that is my profession for most of my life has been very physical, like with coaching and being a strength coach. It was almost like a coping. That's why I call it a book cope. It was like I would get away from that to go be in the clouds. Okay, but now where I'm at now, I'm out of coaching and just teaching. I'm very, very much like, I was going to tell you before we started rolling, like I'm probably near the end of reading for a while. I feel it. Like there's just not much more that I can do for now. I think maybe there'll be a time when I come back to reading, but I'm going to need a huge break because everything's pushing me towards being down here in the body and being in here, like you were mentioning, just being here in the now, and with passion, with enthusiasm, with a vitality, with a life force that's life affirming, life supportive. And that's another thing you were saying. So I saw a common denominator in the body, but then like you mentioned being life supportive, and what's really changed for me about good and evil and being beyond good and evil or pre-good and evil is that most of what's evil isn't life affirming. It's actually life denying. Like I'm not even sure that I can get into what most of what Nietzsche says. It's so controversial, but he's really, really affected me. I never touched him. I've read Jung, who was highly impacted by him, but took his things in another way. And it's really cool to read Nietzsche and see, oh, I can see where Jung, I see how that became Carl Jung, and he took it in another way. I just never, I've heard about him on the periphery. I've never dove into him. And in the past really 3 to 4 weeks, I've really dove deep into him, and it's been very impactful. But he's very controversial. And he literally says in one of his books, he's like, it's an honor thing for him. Like an ancient man and primal man, like you wanted to fight an enemy that was like an honorable enemy. You didn't pick on the weak. You picked someone that could destroy you. And then if you defeated them, then you got the honor. And even if you didn't, well, you had honor in attempting it. And he's like, that's how I philosophized. I would pick on people that had already won. I would pick on thoughts that would already like dominant. So like he picks on Christianity a lot. Like he picks apart at it. And a lot of that's because his dad was a Protestant pastor. He grew up in the church in a way. But anyway, he just says some controversial things, man. But that is one of the big ones, is that his whole thing is about, he wrote a book called Beyond Good and Evil, and in it he's talking about how our conceptions, it's not even about what is good and what is evil. He talks about how our conceptions of good and evil have changed, and how, where they originally would have started, you know, and I just don't know how much I can get into it. Wow. But one thing I think that is digestible is that evil is life denying. So if you look out in the world today and think about things, and by life he means the natural state of life. And if I can go on a little tangent here, basically what he's saying is, like, if you look at, not to say that Darwin was completely correct, because even now they're saying that he might have been incorrect in some ways with the evolutionary theory. But in some ways, and what he did get correct was that you could look at this evolutionary narrative and see that there's this constant, like, overarching vitality and feeling to survive, procreate, expand, survive, procreate, expand, and get bigger, and you procreate and you produce. Okay, it's productive. It's like, it's just vitality. It's this essence. It's ferocious sometimes in nature, but it's also it's productive. It just growth.
Yeah, it's the formative tendency.
Okay.
Yeah, I like calling it. I like referring to it like that.
And we still have this nature, but what's funny to think about, and again, zooming out and looking in grand scales, it's like there is still some of that in us, but there's still, like, today, in today's current age, it's weird because Nietzsche was writing towards the end of the 1800s, and so much of what he wrote, it was prophetic to what we're going through in modernity, because in a lot of ways he was a critique, a criticizer of modernity. But like, you look around today, and a lot of it's not life affirming; it's life denying. That, and again, life being that urge, that vitality, that drive to produce, to grow, to do great things. Like one thing he says is, stop. Like, don't be afraid to desire great things. It's okay to want to be great. It's okay to want to make your body great. The aesthetics of bodybuilding. Like, it's okay to want to make yourself into something amazing. It's okay to want to build a legacy. It's okay to want to have a huge family with a bunch of kids. Like,
motivating.
So, but all that to say, that's life affirming. And he would say anything opposite of that is evil.
Yeah.
In its truest sense. And any philosophy that tries to get you to believe and do things that are accepting of life denial, they're evil too. Yeah. And he called those, he used a way more politicized word. We'll call it the loser's morality. He basically had a winner's and a loser's morality. Yeah. And a loser's morality is all about, like, accepting life denial, suffering, destroy yourself. And in opposite of that, the winner's morality was like, go out, try to achieve great things, be beautiful, be vital, be ferocious, and I don't know, do great things and be life affirming in that way. So
beautiful, man. Very motivating.
Cool.
Very motivating.
It's motivating me.
And I think modern day controversy can come from the person that, regardless of the life denying narrative and behaviors and experiences that are happening, they're evil, right? So this is why I've just got to get real comfortable with all sides of humanity. I think the controversial thing to do is to stand firm and say, I'm still going to stand for what is life affirming.
Yeah.
That's controversial.
Yeah.
And oftentimes those people who devote to life affirming will meet controversy and have to understand the difference and the dichotomy of good and evil at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
To say, like, I need to stick to what I think you were alluding to was just truths with like a capital T. Like, we just know that those things are life affirming. And another thing is, like, tell me what you think about this. Like, when the word life, like, capital L IEIFE, and I think it's a verb.
Yeah. Yes. It's a becoming.
It's a verb. It's life. And what I've been working tirelessly on is trying to figure out how to get those truths that we all know and then have the person behave them out into the world.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm trying to do. That's how I'm trying to help people.
I hear you talk and like you're so close to being a Nietzschean. Like, it's really weird.
I mean, because that's really interesting how both of our, like, I would say, like, investigation and curiosity has come across the same idea but different ways.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
And that always happens. But
It's so interesting.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's parallel to what Nietzsche's saying, just in different ways. And a little, and yours is a little bit more acceptable, I think, because Nietzsche really is controversial. But to your point,
Well, because can I tell you why? Because I'm a humanist. I'm a very humanistic counselor. Like, I believe in the good in people. Like, I know that all people are capable of well-being, life satisfaction, and meaning.
Yeah,
we're all capable of it.
And that's I think you're much more optimistic than Nietzsche was. Nietzsche thought that
I would assume,
we were at the time of the last man.
Yeah.
He thought, and he also said, like, and again, this is another politicized concept of his that is really misunderstood, but his Ubermensch, the Superman, he flat out said, and this is why the people that think they know what it is get it wrong. He flat out says in it to his readers, you will not be the Superman. You can't. You can't be he spells it out, what it looks like. And he's like, and sorry, it's not you, modern man, because you literally cannot be, but you could maybe give birth to one. You could maybe help usher in the next generation of Superman. But to your point, man, I had a really good rebuttal to your, here's the thing, is most morality for him,
Okay.
when we talk about morals, it's all like this fear-based. Oh, I remember what I was going to say, because you were talking about it's life is a verb. It's very active for him. The heroic winner's morality is active. It's out there. It's forward-leaning. It's going to go out there for that growth. It's that same idea of life for him. Life. Your conception of life is very similar to his, and he never really had a systemic philosophy. That's why he's not really the best philosopher. He didn't give you a system. But the closest thing he had to a system was life.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I support life.
Right.
Life affirming.
Right.
And so, yeah, but his point was the noble, heroic winner's model of that is going to be active. The loser's model is reactive, and usually reactive in a state of resentment. So a lot of times, like, look, let's be honest, like, people suffer, and it hurts to suffer.
Yeah.
It hurts to lose.
Yeah.
We've all been in a game. Let's take this to the most innocent example. We've all been in a game growing up, and you like cry after you lost, right? It hurts to lose.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this is a metaphor for life. Now, what sports is so good about teaching us is how to respond to that. And the wrong response to losing is to get resentful and hateful and want to plot to bring the downfall of the opponent that just, won. And so often there's not that carryover in life. We think systemically or whatever, hey, I'm losing. This has got to be somebody else's fault. And this is where Nietzsche's he doesn't come across as empathetic. But he's like, no, it's not somebody else's fault. You need to overcome the weakness in you.
Yes.
If you want to become a winner. It's a lot about self-overcoming.
Yes.
And so a loser will react with resentment. And a lot of morality for Nietzsche was a disguise for resentment. It was, I'm a loser. How can I flip this game to make it cool to be a loser? In all intents and purposes. It's
Humility and gratitude. Anyhow, that's just a Jordan Peterson idea.
Yeah.
When he
What,
talks
in response to a loss?
Yeah. What is he talks in his stages? There's the hero. What comes before the hero? It's like in the story. It's
The fool.
The fool.
Fool
There you go.
precedes the hero, yeah.
The fool precedes the hero. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So to be a fool, you have to be humble and grateful.
For sure. And life will make a fool out of all of us at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
And if your response to that is to be,
Ain't that the truth, bro?
well, if your response to that is to get revenge or to be resentful, and here, this is something that I touched on years ago in my own life, like my own studies, was like, I looked around and I was like, and this is something I actually learned from Batman, from the Dark Knight series. I think it's explicit in the first one where he says, he gets told, justice is not revenge. That's not justice, because he wants revenge for the people that killed his parents. He wants to get revenge, and the girl slaps him. Is like, that's not justice. That's, you're getting revenge. And to Nietzsche, looking around at modernity, he was like, so much of the social reality, to use your terms, of the morals around us is this disguised resentment and desire for revenge, and all their ideas of justice are petty games. And I can relate a lot to that. Like when you start getting into some of the stuff that I'm reading about, like just with the CIA. Sorry, I said it. Hopefully they don't hunt us down. But like
We were ready to get copyright.
I know. But you know, everyone can relate to the idea of like the greedy, corrupt politician, that it's rules for thee, not me, right? Like, and that goes on. The reason why that's an archetypal thing that we can relate to is that does happen.
Yeah.
Like there's people that are at the top in leadership or elite levels that have power, and the rules are applied to us below them, but not for them.
Yeah.
And that's what Nietzsche saw. And he's like, that's just a game.
Yeah.
Like, and again, it's because they had the power. Anyway, I'm going on a long tirade,
No,
but to say it is active. Life is an active response. It's not a reactive resentment.
Absolutely. And what I'm trying to do is understand the cognition that allows for that to happen.
Yeah.
That's, as you were describing that, I'm like, yep, cool. I'm learning as we're talking here.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find the cognition that takes what he describes as that life force, that energy, and how can we transfer that and bring it forth into someone's life. Trying to figure out how we do that.
I wonder if you couldn't pose the question to a potential client or a patient that's like, hey, are you being reactive or active in this situation?
Yeah.
Because that's really what it got down to, was like,
yeah, well, there's more to it, man. Like that's
sure.
what there really is. Like when you get, yeah. But when you get into like helping someone reframe their cognition, like there's a lot that needs to happen.
I guess I was more picturing someone in an emotional state, kid got in trouble or whatever. He's trying to start a fight.
Absolutely. But like you're talking like in the moment type thing. Like you're not talking long term. You're like, hey, in that moment where you being okay, got you. Yeah. I was thinking more long term.
Yeah. No, long term you'd have to do more work to develop a plan to shift towards, I would think, being active and embodying activity.
Absolutely. Yeah. You need to have goals and a plan.
Right.
In order to understand like how this new type of behavior is going to help you.
Yeah.
You have to experience it.
Yeah.
I guess that's what that does.
I guess it's helped me. Like, it'd be cool. It helped me to see that from him, like to say, hey, you might think this is justified in you feeling this way, but really that's a reactive loser's mindset. Yeah. I know you can't say that, but you get what I'm saying. This is Nietzsche saying it.
Yeah.
And in comparison to, well, this is how a winner who is active would respond. And then I started thinking about my life and all the moments that I react emotionally, and I'm like, oh, that is kind of a lose. Like, I'm just reacting. You know, that's not active. And what's funny is the Greeks. Nietzsche's a Greek. I'll tell you that too. Okay. When it comes to what era he is, he plays so much on the Greeks. But the Greeks had this term. I forget the name of the term, but it was this carelessness. It translates to a carelessness. There's actually a really good story. I think Socrates tells this, but there was you'll like the story. So Hippocrates, there's a phrase that the Greeks would use. It's called Hippocrates doesn't care. And so what happened was, back then, to find a suitable husband for this nobleman's daughter, he invited all these like, you know, top notch uber boyos, you know, athletic dudes over that were potential husbands, and they stayed at the house for this nobleman. And, you know, they would drink and eat, and then they would like compete and stuff. And he would like watch and observe. And Hippocrates was like far above and beyond the rest. All right. So he's clearly like, okay, this guy's going to be the winner. Yeah. And towards the end of this competition, he had a little too much to drink, and he's dancing. Everybody's dancing. He's like outshowing everybody on how to dance.
Hippocrates.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he gets on top of a table and like gets on his head and starts breakdancing, and he's like twisting around on top of his head, right? Like he's just having a great time.
Athletic.
Right. But back then they wear underwear. So his skirt fell down and he's exposing himself to everybody in the party. Embarrassing. So the dad gets mad. He's like, hey, dude, you just embarrassed everybody. You just exposed yourself. You went way too far. You're absolutely having a good time.
Yeah.
Like, you do not get to have the hand of my daughter now. You just lost yourself the competition. And Hippocrates goes, Hippocrates doesn't care. And he just kept on raging and partying, bro. And that's how these Greeks, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, I don't care. I'm still going to be the best here, even if I don't win the prize.
Modern day self-acceptance, y'all.
Yeah. Hippocrates doesn't care. But
modern day self-acceptance.
the point of that was Nietzsche was like, you have to have kind of like the winner's morality would have this kind of carelessness to the gadflies and the gnats that like try to bother you and get you to react, right? Like it's almost like a horse, you know, it's just going to horse, and the flies and the gnats and stuff, it's not bothered by that, you know? But like people that constantly are losing, they're, you know, like it's that reactive state of fear.
Yeah.
He even said fear is the mother of all morals.
Yeah.
Which is another one. It's like, oh, this hits you. So
interesting.
I don't know if that could help, you know, help someone get from reactive to active, is this state of carelessness. I mean, I think about the kids that we've coached, and it's like, why do you get mad at every single thing that's said to you on the field? You know what I'm talking about? Like those kids that you had to work with last year. Yeah. And just pull them aside. It's like, what? Every little thing that's said to you, you have to justify it. You have to fight it. You have to get your revenge. You have to get even.
Well, if we're, again, I fell onto the idea of self-acceptance.
Yeah.
As you were telling that story, because I think it's important to understand we're really having a show today about living into an ideal and just knowing that there's a certain way of being a human that brings forth like good, positive results for you and others. Like there's just a way, and what we're trying to talk about tonight is how Anthony and I are getting there to understand it better, to where, A, we can do it right in our own lives, but at the same time share what we find. Yeah. But sometimes we're not going to hit the mark. And man, as you told that story, I felt like Hippocrates, right?
Yeah, Hippocrates, yeah.
I feel like, I'm saying it right, Hippocrates.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Say it.
Hippocrates.
Hippocrates. Tell me I'm wrong so I could fix it.
It sounded right. It sounded like you were saying it right.
Hippocrates. So in that moment, maybe he didn't live up to the ideal of the Father, that ideal of his. But at the same time, he said, I accept myself. I'm just going to keep going on and being who I am and trying better next time. I don't know. That was just my analysis of that story.
And again,
self-acceptance, man. Like sometimes we need to understand we're gonna falter. We're gonna accidentally do life-denying things. All of us. Yeah. It's just, it happens unconsciously sometimes. Yeah. And when it does, man, we've got to be able to forgive and accept and understand that, man, just because I was that in that moment and that past experience is now imprinted on a certain concept that I will then use to predict, right? Just sharing all the ideas, and I'm trying to figure out how we transfer this. That doesn't mean that that's what I am and that's who I am.
And that response is exactly what he would say is life affirming.
Yeah, I would assume. You know, and I think that's being proactive and not reactive. Yeah. It's in the moment, just stepping forward and saying, okay, what needs to happen now in order for me to respond correctly to this?
Yeah. I love that. He would say that's life affirming. It's like this, because you're not getting bogged down or like down on yourself.
And we're going a lot from like the abstract to the physical, right? From the form to the formless. So didn't Nietzsche also say that the body itself is as a tool and make your life a work of art? And the way that work of art is made is with the tool and utility of the body and how it is expressing those higher values. Something along those lines?
Yes. Okay. So, and where he was getting, yeah, absolutely. And where he was getting at, again, was from the Greeks. The Greeks thought that if you were virtuous morally and characteristically, that would be expressed physically through your body.
Yeah. Okay.
So to train aesthetically and to take care of your flesh and to train physically, that was part and parcel to being a virtuous, good person. Yeah. To them, to be good meant good all around. Yeah. And so, yes, he was at and their importance of the beauty. I mean, Socrates and Plato, their trinity is true, good, and beautiful. And the beautiful for the Greeks was huge, and for Nietzsche. Now, he never defines what that means, and I think, and I've done a lot of studies into that too, like that Socratic trinity of the true, the good, and the beautiful. The closest thing you can get is like, okay, so if I say, hey, you're being a good friend, and then I say you're a good coach, and I say you're a good brother, and you're a good dad. Okay, all of those titles require different things of you.
You know, those are concepts.
Yeah. Okay, so all those concepts.
Right? So let's just use the terms we're using tonight. Those
That's
are
fine.
concepts.
But all those concepts have different characteristics. They have different traits, but they can all be described by the adjective good, right? So
yes.
the commonality of that good amongst all of them, if you were to take out the bit of good that means good dad and good teacher and good whatever, and all that they have in common, and abstract that out, that's your ultimate good.
Yeah.
And that was part of his like Trinity. You could do that for the truth and for the beautiful. And so in a way, beauty, it's like we know what I keep coming back. Like the easiest way to see this is like the rebirth of bodybuilding, which happened in like the early 1900s, because the Greeks did that. Like they were legit. The gymnasium was where you went to learn and to train. Socrates and his men of Athens, like when they went to school, it was physical and mental. They'd learn outside mostly, and then they'd go and train. Like the gym, it was called the gymnasium. That's where we get that term. And so for them, there was an objective concept of what beauty is, and it was physical. You know, like it was. You could tell. Look at their statues. That's all you have to say. Look at their statues. Yeah. There's a reason why thousands of years later we still admire Greek statues.
Yeah.
There's a reason why during the Renaissance, you had all these Italians like oh my God, my mind's drawing a blank. The guy who did David, but the David statues, which everyone's like, oh, that's
Michelangelo, right?
Michelangelo. Thank you. I knew it was an M. Michelangelo did the David statue. It's of David, who was a Jew.
Yeah.
And it was made by an Italian during the Renaissance,
Yeah.
but he did it in the Greek architectural design.
Right.
It's designed like a Greek statue.
Right.
So,
well, I also want to kind of allude to that the form doesn't necessarily matter, in my opinion, the quality and utility of a life, right? With a capital L. I've been real big on not necessarily looking so much what or why or when or where. I've been real focused on how, man. Like, how is this body responding to the world? Like, how is that happening? And how it's happening certainly influences the health of the person. So how it's happening, like how are we transitioning that idea that you're talking about here of just being this form of good in the world? Like, how is that being like acted out? It doesn't, man, you could be 400 pounds. I don't care. You could still be like a rock star. Like, you don't have to be this chiseled warrior. Still rock it out. Sorry, maybe that was that like multicultural counseling training that I did so much in there. It don't matter who you are, where you're from, you can be great, man.
No, don't say sorry, because I immediately thought of Luke Combs. Like, that guy's huge,
dude.
But he's got that energy.
It's that expression of life, bro.
Yeah.
It's that expression of life. Like, that's really what we're getting at here. Like, I'm trying to take that idea that there's an expression of life, and you are that.
Yes.
And how do I help explain to people that there's a way that you can architect your experience by just understanding that?
I think it's that striving. Luke Combs being at 400 pounds, I don't know, he is probably close to 400 pounds, but him having that rock star vitality and success and energy and power, you see him on stage, he's a performer, he's super successful right now, but he's not aesthetically, physically pleasing like you're saying. It doesn't matter the form, but it comes back to the energy, and it's that striving. Luke Combs struggled and strove to make something out of himself for something great. And so, I don't know, maybe that's the answer, is like, yeah, the form doesn't matter. The aesthetic form doesn't matter. It's about that energy and that life force, that vital life force. That's what I keep coming back to. And that is life affirming to tap into that. That is our natural state. I think that is our human nature.
For sure.
Again, from an evolutionary standpoint, that is what life wants. It wants to keep doing great things. We should be going to space. We should be colonizing other planets. That's why I do like Elon Musk for that sense. Like the dude's a maverick. Like, he tries to do crazy stuff. Yeah, he hits, he misses, and he says some stupid stuff sometimes. But he's trying to continue that path of life where it's like a striving and an accomplishment and I don't know, and
Achievement,
again,
growth, evolution.
yes, and that life affirming, that whole thing is, and Nietzsche says this, it's in the blood and it's in the spirit, which is his way of saying it's in the body.
Yeah.
It's not something that, see, Nietzsche was a huge critic, and this has been tough on me because I grew up on Plato and Socrates and that philosophical mindset.
Yeah.
He's a huge critic of Socrates. He said Socrates is how you can tell that the Greek nation was about to fall, because Socrates, in this rationalistic philosophy, he bags on philosophers all the time. He's like philosophizing and this rational thinking. All it was a constant seeking for a justification of life.
Yeah.
It's like the kid, he makes the analogy, he doesn't make this analogy, but this is the analogy. It's like when you have a young kid and they're like, Daddy, why does that do that? And you're like, well, because of this. And it's like, but why? Because of this.
Yeah.
But why? Because of this. And it's like, but why? But why? But why? And he's like, that's what Socrates and philosophy and this rationalizing thinking does.
Right.
And we think that's what sets us apart as humans. And Nietzsche's like, no, that's not what sets us apart as humans. What sets us apart as humans is that we have this vital life energy that's life affirming.
And we're aware of it.
Yes. Yes. And we can use it and tap into
Yes.
it or deny it. Or
Yes.
deny it, which we've done a lot in modernity.
I believe that the intermediary between this vital life force that you talk about and the physical body, our life, our experience, is the brain. And that's why I think it's so fascinating. Like, how can we architect and wire the brain to where it processes information from the world in a way that behaves like all the things you're talking about right now? Like, that's why I'm so fascinated about counseling and neuroscience and psychology. Is like, I feel like that's the intermediary.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're talking about, that control we have, what Nietzsche's talking about, that we're aware of that life force. And when we allow ourselves to understand and believe something like that, our life begins to change. Our reality, the social reality begins to change because we respond to things differently. And a lot of what we believe about ourselves is what we believe other people believe about us. So that's why I think it's so important to understand how the body plays a huge role in expressing that vital life force.
Yeah.
We've got to be aware that we are the ones who are responsible for the concepts that we place against reality.
Yes. And that's, I think, so true.
We need to make sure that we're co-creating those things. We're not just being programmed.
And, yes.
We are architects and electricians of our mind.
Yes. Yes. Because if we don't, someone will
Do it for us.
Exactly. And that was his point too, was that most of social morality was that programming that was just given to you. And like you said with
And can we throw this out here too? Like, trauma, pain, past experience, like that can also attack people in the present. Kind of what you're talking about. That programming can still influence today.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I want to see what you have to. Okay, so hearing you say that about the brain being the intermediary, I don't know what to do with, because what you just said has been my take for, I'm 30 now, since I was 21, so for 9 years. Okay. And again, not to be like, oh, I'm in this Nietzsche phase. Let me be Nietzsche. But I want to steel man his argument because this is how I think he would respond to that.
okay.
And so before we even go to him, let's go to Jonathan Haidt.
Okay.
You heard of him?
No. I think you've mentioned him on the show a couple of times.
He wrote a book called The Righteous Mind. It's really good. And he has a new one out. I want to get it.
Yeah, you told me about that. But
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, anyway, he gets into this, and I'm sure you've touched on this, but that rational mind sits on top of the animal mind. And we've actually talked about this on the show before. But in a lot of ways, we think the rational mind is the rider of an elephant, and he's in complete control. And what Jonathan Haidt shows, what a lot of neuroscience that I've read shows, is actually no, the animal's in charge, and the rational mind will justify or come up with narratives to rationalize what happened.
Yes.
And so in a lot of ways, we are still driven instinctually. I think Jung was getting at this too with the affective drives that he talked about. Jacques Panksepp is another neurophysiologist who talks about the affective drives. He's got a really good book on that. And those are animalistic, but they're instinctual, and they drive us more than we think. And so there's that rational mind that's kind of like the judge or the writer that's there to be like, well, this is why we did that. But sometimes we really don't even know why we did that. And Nietzsche was like, Stop thinking you're just the writer.
Yeah.
Like you need to listen and tap into those instincts and live by those instincts.
I love it. Thank you for going there.
Okay.
Because I was talking about this in theory that I'm really inspired by right now. It's literally the theory of constructed emotions. Like everything you just talked about is emotion.
Yeah. It's affect.
It's emotion.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you brought this back up because that's a huge part of this. Like I think emotional concepts is really how we like ultimately categorize the way that we express some of those. And oh God, this was really interesting too. Like, and it made it real easy. Like there's so many different like emotions you could think of. And they said that I was reading something that said there's like 5 core. I thought it was really fascinating because you can really help someone who's trying to figure out where the problem lies, right? By saying, okay, this is really simple, like categorize how you're feeling in that moment within these 5 things. It was anger, disgust, fear, happiness, and sadness. So thought that was really interesting. But everything you're talking about, I think emotions plays a huge part, man.
Yeah.
And how an experience is emotionally conceptualized will probably determine the emotion that we have in something similar in the future.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so
Emotions.
maybe to help with
Emotions.
maybe where Nietzsche can help with that. He's helped me.
Yeah, say more about Nietzsche because it was flowing and then I got back to emotions, but go more because I'm.
Yeah, well, I think I think that's spot on, and I think what he would say to that again. I'm still working this out. Oh, go ahead.
It's where emotions lie in the brain.
Yeah.
That's really what I was getting at because you were okay because you were talking about how there's the animal and then the rational, and the rational is riding the animal.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's like networks. We got to understand like there's pockets of like emotional concepts and things like that don't determine that we're just at the mercy of. Like we can participate in, man.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what Nietzsche was.
Yeah, I like
we can
that.
participate in because we can reconceptualize an experience to be a better healthier emotional concept.
Yes.
And that's us like taking on and like being actively involved.
Yeah. I like that, and I think he would too, because his whole thing was he was like where we've become, again, because that loser's morality and modernity, we've become nauseous towards mankind. So we look at man and we have a nausea about looking at man and his more animalistic, affective drives, emotionality, and we think we've got to conquer those. So here's the thing. Nietzsche was like, if you look at nature and how animals behave in nature, it's bloody, it's tooth and nail, it's almost amoral in a sense. That's what I meant by pre-good and evil.
Yeah.
The lion killing the gazelle has no malice in its heart. And the gazelle doesn't say, oh, this is such an evil lion that's killing me. It's all about survival, right? So his thing is like, hey, that's still in us. And what's happened is over time, we've come to demonize that in us, but it's not gone away. And this is what Carl Jung, I think, was saying in a sense. He's like, hey, you have these affective drives that want out. And Nietzsche makes a great point. He says the will to power, the will to conquer, the will to be cruel, the will to be ferocious is still in us. But when we top it off and stuff it down, it won't be an outward expression, but it's going to turn right back in and be an inward expression. And we'll want to destroy ourselves. Yeah. We'll want to be cruel to ourselves. We'll want to conquer ourselves and make this like weak, decrepit version of ourselves. And so I think a lot of what could be healthy to opening up the door or the gateway to what you're saying, which is this interactive network with that drive, those affective drives, is understanding that, hey, the animal side of humanity is not something to demonize. It's something to be cognizant of, to be conscious of, to commune with.
Right.
And I think ultimately that's what Jung was getting at. See, and that's what Nietzsche was saying. He was like, Nietzsche was like, stop lying to yourself that you think you're this rational Socrates that like moves through life rationalistically. He's like, you're not. You're mostly driven by instinct, and then you rationalize post the conflict or whatever. Yeah. So I don't know if that helped, where that puts your head.
Man. Oh, that is good stuff, man.
Deep stuff, man.
That is great stuff right there.
It's a lot. I mean, I'm still working through it, but
I think, again, it's great how the idea that I've been focusing on good and evil and accepting that part of humanity, I think, well, what we're really trying to do here tonight, man, is figure out like how we can be, you know, in a time where things are life denying. Like, how do we become people that can remain life affirming in those challenging moments of life? I think that's really the operative idea that we're picking apart tonight, is how do we stay on the right path when sometimes things get hard? And sometimes we bring that hardness on ourselves, right?
For sure. I think I have the beginnings of an answer. It's to get with people like what we've done. And it doesn't need to be this tribe. It doesn't need to be a community.
Just develop a good social reality. I think that's super important.
And I think that starts with surrounding yourself with a small group of people that are striving and are embodying that life affirmative, vital life energy, that are trying to best themselves, that are trying to self-overcome their own weaknesses, their own downfalls and pitfalls, and just trying to be the best that they can be, that are embodying that energy that we talked about with Luke Combs, or it's just that vital life energy that's life affirmation. We've been talking about this since the beginning of the show with life supportiveness. And now I see it like even more clear now. It's like, oh my God, that is, to me, that's like, of all the MOPs, like that might be the one that's like, if we can make a priority out of them, I know they're all important, they're all good. I mean, it's been a long time since we touched on them, but being life affirmative and life supportive and finding and surrounding yourself with life supportive, life affirming people, that's, I think, the beginning to being that. And embodying that. And that doesn't have to be a huge group. It doesn't have to be 100 people.
Absolutely. And what makes us special is we have the awareness of good and evil. Like, we could determine that, like how you were saying with the comparison of the lion and the gazelle. Like, the lion doesn't understand the differentiation of good and evil. Like, it does not have that awareness. It's just doing what a lion does. Yeah. So I think this understanding of something bigger that we humans have is expressed through emotion. I think it's emotion. And what I want to understand, Anthony, is like how emotions are made, the neuroscience of emotions. And just to understand that and then trail back and say, okay, now I understand how an emotion is made in the brain. I'm really believing that that's the expression of the life force, the life energy. Like, the emotion is, if you're sad, if you're despondent, if you're resentful, like some of those negative emotions that we typically talk about, like you're not expressing your life in a very dynamic, like growth, evolutionary oriented way. Like, and it's trying to tell you that. Yes. And that's why you feel like that. Yes. And that's why you're responding like that.
Yes.
So what we need to do is understand that maybe how we're engaging with the experience of life determines the emotion that we feel, but how we can become aware of what emotion we're experiencing in that event, or with that object, find so much utility in that.
Yeah.
So much value. I think emotion literally is energy in motion, and we're talking about energy.
Yeah.
So like how do we take that positive, life supportive, vital life energy, man, and express it through this form, this body?
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great question. I think part of the, at least again for me, the solution that I've been meditating on is to stop demonizing mankind and the animalistic side of mankind. We still have that animal in us. Everything that I say that's under the umbrella animal is what you're talking about. It's those affective drives, those emotions, those feelings that are the vital life energy that we can live through. But so much of what we've been doing since I think really for the past 2,000 years, I gotta be careful because I'm still working through a lot of this. There has been, whether you are religious or not, there has been a prevailing narrative that man is fallen and weak, and those animal sides of us should be demonized and neglected. And like Carl Jung said, anything pushed down, suffocated, repressed is just going to come back with a vengeance. And so often I think we get in these positive feedback loops, negative feedback loops, and reoccurrences is because we're trying to suppress that side. Yeah. So if we can just open-armed embrace that side of us, I think we could begin to live like you're saying.
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. That's exactly what I was settling on myself, man.
Yeah.
Is understanding that it's out there. It all exists.
Yeah.
It all exists.
Yeah, man.
But like, how do we, what does it mean to us really? Because remember, also from what I've been reading, that meaning creates emotion. So what is an object? What does an event mean to you? Like, what's its significance in your life? Like, is it something there to tear you down and make you weak and take you into a state of fear or guilt or grief? Or is it something there that is going to pull forth like something special in you? The love of life again, right? The love of life. That's, I think, the answer. To fall back in love with life. Capital L, the verb life.
Yes.
That's keeping us all alive.
Yes. Yes.
That we go to sleep and we wake up and we're conscious again.
Yeah.
Like, that's life, man. It's breathing in us, through us. Man, like, you see what I'm saying, bro?
Yes.
Like, getting people to like fall back in love with life, I think will ultimately make them fall in love with themselves again, and the meaning of life will have a different context to it, which will create a more positive emotion, right?
Mm-hmm. Let me read this to you, because it's so funny you just said that.
Yeah.
Because I wrote this today.
Wow.
I'm taking everything that we've been learning and making like a little manifesto of it.
Nice.
But it's called Be the Barbarian.
Cool, man. I should do that.
But I just wrote this.
I'm going to start doing that.
Okay. Let me see what you think about this. Affirm yourself. Will to love the animal man in you, the happiness, beauty, appearance, becoming, death, wishing, longing, support of life, life affirmation, nature, vitality, ferocity. For the opposite of loving such things is a willing to avoid those things, and it's a willing to nothingness. That's true nihilism. So when we don't love life, when we don't love the beautiful, when we don't love all these things I listed, longing, wishing, support of life, life affirmation, what we're really longing for and willing is nothingness. That is the truest nihilism. And that's how you affirm yourself, is to love those things. Love the will to happiness. Love the will to beauty. Love the will to life.
Wow.
And that, like the affirming yourself thing, like the life affirming means to me, like go out and justify why you're alive. I think so many times, like, people are waiting with a handout, like, why am I here? Why am I here? What am I doing? And it's like, go out and justify your life. Like, think about the eternal reoccurrence. Like, if you were to live your life over and over again, let's say rebirth. What am I trying to say?
Reincarnation.
Reincarnation. Thank you. Let's say reincarnation is real, and you have to live the same life over and over and over again.
Oh, Nietzsche said that, didn't he?
Yes, the eternal recurrence. Yeah. This practice. What would you do differently? What would you do to make this experience the best experience you could do? Go do it. If you had to live this moment over and over and over again, what would you do? What would be the best out of all those reoccurrences? That's affirming your life and who you are, and that's being life affirmative.
And
that's
I
being
think
life supportive.
And we talked about Kant even before the show, actually, for a second. But I think what's important with that idea too, man, is to treat people not as a means to an end, but an end in and of themselves. Yeah. That's really important, man. Like, when you're out there doing this life affirming things that Anthony's talking about, that involves this being your natural, authentic self, like, understand that you better make sure that it's supportive to life in general. And I think that's what really we're alluding to here, is like, when you understand that there's good and evil, and there's just different degrees of experience, like, I almost want to say that you can just almost like accept the evil in the world, but have the courage to devote, to do all you can to what's good. Yeah. Like, I think there's a way to structure that.
Yeah.
There's a way to structure that.
There is.
So I love how you said the will to love, man. Mm-hmm. The will to, that's great. 'Cause like, life is the capital L, life, the verb is the same life in everybody else, right?
Yes.
So like, when you just kind of entertain that perspective, that paradigm of thinking that, man, maybe there isn't maybe there is no such thing as good or bad people. Maybe there's just people who do good things and people who do bad things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how those things are done is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I get that. I love what you're saying though. Like that same life energy that you know is in you is in that person.
Absolutely, it's pumping their blood.
Yes, bro.
It's flowing the river.
And that's what's in all of us. And it's like, in a way, that's what connects all of us. And so like you're saying, when I recognize that in someone else, no matter what they're doing, they could be pissing me off. But if I can take a step out and realize that, well, they're just this bottled energy of life going about expressing their the best way that they can.
Yeah.
You said something very crucial, which was courage. And that was another thing, again, you say things and I'm like, bro, you're Nietzsche, but you're an Uber boy, Nietzsche. But I just love
life, man. I really do.
Well, I mean, check this out. You're gonna like this. His thing on courage was like, again, coming back to his critique on Socrates. He thought it was ultimately what fueled Socrates. And again, I don't know that I fully believe this. I'm still working this stuff out because Socrates was a huge hero to me for so long. But he thought what fueled Socrates was a cowardice towards reality. He took reality and said, well, let me find a justification for this. I have to rationalize a justification for why this happened or that happened. The opposite of that would be courage for Nietzsche, courage to face reality. And then once you faced it, like kind of what we're talking about with this realization and this acceptance of the animal inside of us, the affective drives, those emotional instincts, that's a courage to embrace that, to accept that as real, and then to be in it and to work with it and start those networks. The rationalistic, nogginist, stuck in my head all the time, denies that. That is life denying.
Right.
And that's why he was so harsh on Socrates and philosophers in general, was their constant seeking to justify reality around them was, in a way, a trying to escape it or trying to control it in a kind of resentful, cowardice way.
Right. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's almost like writing a book from 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Just being told by what others are telling you.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's tough stuff. I mean,
well, and I really like how you started touching on like the importance of like the social game. I think we have been talking about that a lot, but there's a lot of utility in to entertain the idea that what we believe people think about is typically what we believe about ourselves.
I know.
Or like the way we treat others is typically like the way we feel and treat ourselves, right?
Yes.
So though that's, those ideas can come from some of the defense mechanisms, right? Of projection's a big one. Like that is to where your own unconscious guilt and fears are projected out onto another. So it basically says it's your responsibility to make me feel better. And that's a very cowardice way for sure. And even the theory of constructed emotion says that. It says, yes, we are formed by social reality, which is a very, and culture, which is a very liberal concept, but it's also a very conservative concept because it says, but you're responsible for creating the healthy concepts that allow you to interact with and predict and correct experience accurately, precisely, and with precision. No, what did I text you with? Accurate, precise, and reliable.
Yeah.
Like you as a person are accurate, precise, and reliable. Like, I don't know. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
I love that. I mean, and again, Nietzsche would be like, screw that. Because he gets deep into like the communal aspect of morality. He's really big. The one I just read was the genealogy of morals. So he takes you through like how morals were discovered and enacted. And going back all the way to the primordial days, it was a communal thing. The tribe had taboos that it was actually detrimental for the individual to go against because you endangered the rest of us. So you can see how that's progressed and grown to what you're saying, which is like this social malleability or malleability. This social, like I'm malleable to what people think because that's kind of written in our DNA, which is to like, oh, am I not, I don't want to step on a taboo communally of the tribe because what that usually ended in was exile. Exile was a thing as a punishment because it's like, hey, you've endangered the tribe, so you got to go. Like you don't get that, because there is utility to being part of a communal tribe. There's utility in being part of society. People take we're supposed to. We're supposed to take care of each other. We're supposed to protect each other. We're
Yeah.
supposed to be, to be under the law in its most ideal state. You're supposed to be protected. And so if you endanger that, like this is the whole idea of punishment. It's like if you go and kill somebody, you've now lost those rights to be.
Well, they were a means to your end.
Right.
Right. Like you needed to feel that satisfaction to express out that real negative energy that you had, and therefore you use them as a means to get to your end of feeling gratification, even though that gratification comes from a place of ooze and muck.
Yeah. So that's absolutely. And so my point to all that though was like, and what I think you're getting at is that taken to its too furthest extreme can be detrimental to you, and I think us emotionally. When you start to think, when you start to care too much about what other people think about you, I don't know. That's dangerous, and I keep coming back to Hippocrates doesn't care. That's what
you have to have you have to have the right intentions behind it.
For sure.
You have to have the right intentions behind it.
For sure. But like stuff, like to give you an example, like when I, again, read Nietzsche.
Like if someone doesn't like you, but you genuinely like stand firm in your intentions, and like what I like to say, I'll die on that sword.
Yeah.
Like if you could die on that sword, that's what Anthony's alluding to. Like people are still an end in and of themselves. They are the same life force, vital energy that is keeping you moving and grooving. But, at the same time.
Yeah, like people have been, kids, dude, like they'll say, like, especially high schoolers, they try to say stuff. They're brutal, man.
And
they're brutal. They'll try to say stuff that like digs under your skin, right? I mean, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Like,
okay. The thing that I'm really getting at too is like, this is the reality that we've been given.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. And I think that when we fight against it and we respond incorrectly, that causes a lot of interoceptive, affective creation of literal experience. What I said all there is subjective experience. Mm-hmm. Like this reality is a subjective experience, man. But we can participate in the architecture and the wiring of this social reality experience. So we just got to understand this is what we got. This is what we've been given. Wherever you're at right now, good or bad, it's where we're at. It's the reality of it. Now, what would be the best response to this?
Yeah.
That's
yes. And it comes back to your intention. Because what I was going to say with that was like,
yes,
the kids I teach, the high schoolers I teach, they try to say stuff like they think they're being funny, but they'll try to say stuff that gets under your skin, and they're really good at it.
Treating people is very important, man.
Yeah, but I admire how good kids are at pissing you off. I actually admire it. But they like lately when they'll say things like, I can't even think of it. This is just a small example, but they'll say things like, I don't know, I don't like your shirt. They'll make fun of you, whatever. And it used to annoy me, be like, oh, really? Like you kind of get, it's like, oh, I'll play it off, but it digs under my skin. But now I literally outwardly say, Hippocrates doesn't care. And that in combination with my intent, which is, again, this to be life affirming. I'll just sum up everything we've talked about in the past hour as life affirming. That's my intent, is to be life affirming, to self overcome and be the best me. That in combination with that Greek carelessness and Hippocrates. Hippocrates doesn't care what you think. Yeah. You're trying to get under my skin. I don't care. Yeah. That right there has like been the most. I have felt it, bro. Like it's been real. It's been easy. I can just move through and focus on what I need to focus on and not get distracted by this person over here trying to piss me off, or the guy that tries to, crosses over me and tries to crash into me in road rage. It's like, what I'm saying?
It's compassion.
Which is funny because it's from a place almost of like carelessness. It's like,
it's almost like, for me, it was in moments like that when my social reality gives an experience that is exactly as you just described, man. I meet it with the emotion of compassion.
It's good.
Or the value of compassion, because I think, man, like I have compassion for myself, which means even if this is true, what they're saying, no one's perfect. So just keep doing what you're doing. But at the same time, I have compassion for someone like that, Anthony, because when I see someone treat another human being poorly, the first thing I think about, and maybe it's the field that I'm in, is what are they going through right now that they have to treat someone else like that? Because if they were good, if they were in a good headspace right now, they wouldn't treat other people like that.
Yeah.
Like you got to understand that you just choosing to start treating other people with like curiosity and understanding and genuinely trying to get to know them and really having conversation and helping them feel seen and heard will be such a positive, healthy addition to anybody's life, dude.
Yes, for sure. I agree. I think it's like two methods, and yours is great. My method's more for like people that.
Yeah, so we bring that though. That's what we bring.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying mine's more for those reactive people. Like I love yours, and I think ideally I'd like to be yours, and I do get to that. But before I can get to that, I'm usually in this phase where it's like reactive emotionally.
Yeah.
And so having that phrase, the Hippocrates doesn't care, or another
Absolutely.
Another one I use is from Troy. There's no pact between lions and men. But it's almost stuff to like.
That's healthy. It's a concept that keeps you.
It reminds me, it's a reminder for me. It's like, bro, like that's their opinion. Why does their opinion matter to you? Like
it reminds you of your self-belief.
Yes.
Which is affective realism, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And life affirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a will to life, a will to love life.
I mean, we're talking research here that says we tend to experience what we believe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man, that's good.
Man, what do we believe about ourselves, others, and the world? And maybe that will help us a lot when it comes to expressing this vital life energy that Anthony's been so big on and had a great discussion on good and evil.
Yeah, man.
And just accepting and understanding that it's there. Mm-hmm. But we can also have the courage to transcend it and remain on the path of life-affirming behavior and responding to experience in a very loving, truthful, and responsible way.
Yeah, man.
And that can be done with starting to pay attention, man, to how you think, how you feel, what you believe, what you value, what things mean to you. These all understanding all these things and getting clarity helps you simplify.
Yeah.
Creates humility a little bit, and it shows you that maybe there's less to you than what you really think, which is kind of utility. When I say that, it's like maybe all these things that I thought about myself that were holding me back aren't my truth.
Yeah.
And I'm just carrying them.
Yes. Yeah.
But it takes a lot of effort. Just like it takes a lot of effort to be physically fit, it takes a lot of effort to be able to, man, like embody these ideas.
Yeah.
And that's mental effort.
Yeah.
And cognition.
Yeah. Spiritual effort.
Spiritual effort. Mm-hmm. Well, the spiritual is the highest, what you're trying to express.
Yeah.
Through this body, right?
Right.
Like that's, but I'm telling you, like when you start paying attention to like our beliefs and our assumptions and our predictions and our attributions to things and all these things, read a little bit about cognition and cognitive science and just see how things work. Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited to bring what I love reading about to the world.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
It's good.
Hit my goal. Today's April 1st.
April Fools.
Remember, my goal was by April 1st, 2024 to have all certifications.
Oh, yeah. Nice, man.
Clap hands to
Congrats.
that. April 1st. Isn't that ironic? I had that thought and literally this.
Yeah, there you go.
I was telling you years ago.
Yeah.
By April 1st, 2024, man, I want to have ...
That's a dub.
It's a dub.
That's a dub, bro.
That's a dub.
That's good.
And that's good too, what we just did right there. Like, give yourself some grace sometimes.
Yeah.
Love yourself,
and
man.
celebrate wins.
Because if you love yourself, you love life.
Yep. And celebrate wins. So it's okay to be great.
Yeah.
It's okay to go do great things. It's okay to accomplish stuff.
For sure.
It's okay to want to make yourself better.
For sure.
I'll leave people with this. I just want to tell people, I think that practice of, or that exercise of the eternal recurrence, right? Like thinking about, don't not even necessarily your whole life, but even just like tomorrow, right? Like let's imagine you had to live tomorrow over and over and over again for eons. Mm-hmm. And you wanted the best version of that. What did you do? Or what's the best version of you that you can strive for? Because that's been what I've been doing, man. Like I've been getting up in the mornings and running. I've been running a lot more. Just
good for you, man.
And I try to find, like, I don't set, this is something that helped me too. I don't set a distance. I just do it for time. I know I need to get at least 30 minutes of good steady state cardio.
Awesome.
Just for my heart and for my health.
Cool.
And so I just set a timer and I just run. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
But it hurts. It sucks. My knee's swollen right now. But I don't care because I keep coming back to, it's like, well, this is what I need to do to become the best me.
Yeah.
And I know that it's not that running's the answer for everybody. It's just for me personally, I've been neglecting cardio. I've been neglecting being strict on my diet and what I put in my body. And if I want to be the best version of me physically, emotionally, spiritually, and the physical part of that, see, I've let the physical part of that go. Once I got out of coaching, really, this last year, it was like, okay, I don't really, I'm getting older. It's like that common, it's like we make excuses as we get older, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be the best version of me all the way until I'm 80.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's like kind of a use it or lose it thing for me.
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So why stop? So I'm just gonna keep going. So anyway, for people out there listening, like, think about what that looks like for you in your life and what you want to be the best version of you, and then go out and do it. It's gonna hurt, but embrace that suffering.
Yeah.
And push through it. It's like the marble, and we're carving out that statue, man. And you gotta cut away some things, and you gotta keep working at it and chipping at it.
I love that. I think
What would you leave them with?
I think that defines the most important thing that you could take away from the show is all this life supportive behavior that we're talking about. Like, we need to be doing it to ourselves as well.
Yeah.
And good things come through hard things.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of the game. You were referring to physical health and the importance of the model that your brain has of the body, which is why physical health is important, nutrition, fitness. Again, I'm a big advocate on saying that it doesn't have to be 10-mile runs every day, just like Anthony, 30 minutes, just something really ultimately for me, physical health or the movement of the body and how you're taking care of the body is why it matters so much is it kind of determines like obviously your self-concept, your self-belief, but ultimately it's not about how you look, it's how you feel.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel better. You feel like you're supporting life because when we behave towards ourselves in a very life supportive way, I'm going to take care of this body. I'm going to give it good nutrition. It reciprocates out into the world.
Yeah.
You start doing the same thing for others, for life in general. So it begins with how we treat ourselves, but ultimately too, like that exercise we talked about earlier, where I was going through something hard and I got out and I remember writing the words that I was writing. Like I felt my hand not want to do it, but I said, no, this is training. This is growth. This is learning. It's not win or lose. It's win or learn.
Yeah.
So I got in there and I wrote it down and, oh man, that's training, y'all. That's what we're alluding to here, that there's an effort that you have to put into it. And ultimately, like, yeah, that's growth. That'll take you to the end of life with a lot of meaning because you've chosen to go into the hard things and understand why they're hard and then figuring out ways to make them less hard.
Yep.
Because life is challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
But we're all capable of meeting those challenges. Yeah. Like I told my daughter the other day, God will never give you a challenge that he did not think you can overcome.
It's true.
He knows you can do this. This is here to fortify you and teach you something. And when you make those mistakes and you feel awful about it, it's there. The awfulness is there to give you something. So when we go into it, rather than run from it, end it on a David Goggins quote, everything you desire is on the other side of fear.
Yeah.
So it's that fear that I don't want to have to think about how crappy I could be as a person, but that doesn't mean you're a crappy person.
Yeah.
It just means that you made a choice in that moment that you thought was right, but upon further reflection, you have chosen to believe it was wrong.
Yep.
Prediction error.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Let's go.
Fix it. Because then you'll start predicting different things in the world.
Love it. We just lost the camera. And I have to pee really bad.
Great show, man. Send
good.
it out. Put some music on.
Yes, sir.
I'll sit in here and I'll do the turn down button. I've never done the turn down button.
You never done the... No, you're good. I got it.
You sure?
Yeah. We can send them off.
Yeah, episode 59. That was absolutely amazing, fun conversation, man. We were in philosophy, cognitive science, spirituality. I think those were the fields of conversation tonight, man. Cognitive science, philosophy, and spirituality.
Huh.
that vital life force, spirituality, that philosophy, what does it all mean? And then that cognitive science, how do we take what it all means and experience it?
That's some college level stuff.
Maybe. Why do it's so crazy. I'm so humble that I just feel like, we just had a normal conversation.
Yeah.
Humble to a fault, mean sometimes, Anthony, but I love it. I accept that part of me, and what I do is I just use it to a benefit, man.
Yeah, man.
Co-creating reality. We are architects of our experience, man.
Love it.
Also electricians, because we can rewire things, y'all. Neuroplasticity is real. Later, y'all.
It's true.
Episode 59. Love y'all.
Fight hard, die well. Oof.